I said I was going to stop that day. I had never said that before. And telling myself, like, okay, now is when we stop. Physically, my body was still picking up the pipe and torching it and smoking.
Right.
It was this weird, more than weird. It was a terrifying disconnect between what was happening with my body and my mind, and that shattered the illusion. I absolutely realized I had no control, and that was the moment where suddenly it was like I woke up from a coma.
Welcome to the Fearless Happiness Podcast, where we showcase phenomenal individuals who have overcome serious traumas, life obstacles, and challenges to find their own path to fearless happiness. Listen as Max Naist invites guests from all around the world to share their experiences and spread strength, hope, and faith. This is the Fearless Happiness Podcast, and this is Max Naist.
All right, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this world. It's Max from the Fearless Happiness Podcast. And today I have a very special guest joining me. His name is Sean, but what I'm going to let him do, Sean, what I like you to do is introduce yourself to my audience, who you are, what it is you do, and then we're going to hit the ground running.
Oh, okay. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Sean Hemeon. I am an actor, a writer, and an artist, a painter here in Los Angeles. And I got a book coming out soon, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But mostly, people know me as an actor. I've worked on 911, Criminal Minds, True Blood, a couple of different shows and that kind of stuff. But I'm also 20 years in recovery, and I'm sure we'll get to that as well.
Absolutely. Right. So what I like to do, Sean, is go back now, like talk about those challenges. I like to call them challenges. I hate to say struggles or
Sure.
problems, right? But one, talk about, you go as deep as you want, but what happened, right? Like they say in the program, what it was like, what
Yeah.
happened, and what it's like now, right? Like
Yeah.
talk about those challenges you went through that, got you into addiction, of course, and then got you out
Yeah.
and where you are today and being an actor and stuff, because we know that's not an easy field to get into. And right.
Good Lord, it's not. No.
Right.
I'm still decompressing or unpacking what it even means to be an artist in this world today, but let alone an actor in Hollywood. So
Right.
yeah, I'd love to get there. Um, all right, let's dig it. Let's get in there. Let's pull up them sleeves. Let's just dive in. Let's have a fireside chat story time. Actually, it's raining for both of us, so
That's
let's cozy up by the fire. But
that's right.
well, I mean, couple, you know, central points to point out is central points to point out, central points to make. I'm originally from Northern Virginia, so like right outside DC. I am the middle child of seven. I got to be the youngest, I got to be the oldest, but mostly I was that middle invisible child. That is all very true, how that happens.
Mhm.
Somehow, this very Mormon pilgrim of a woman came out from Utah, met my very Irish Catholic, alcoholic, very like cursing, just hippie dude, and they just somehow crashed together and out popped all these kids. And it was like, what? I mean, chaos from the absolute beginning. I definitely I've pathologized, of course, how they, trauma bonded all the key how these
Right.
two people came together. Because I mean, actually, this is relevant to the creation of Sean because my mother was a BYU student, which most people know BYU is like the very Mormon school in Salt Lake City.
Yep.
She was Queen Bee, married to the BYU football quarterback, like the star of everything. This dude was caught and arrested for dealing steroids, and so my mother was put on a plane, had to divorce him, sent to Virginia, Northern Virginia, where my grandfather was part of the National Geological Survey. That's why he was there. But get this shit. Oh wait, can I curse? Am I cursing?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah. Go
they're
ahead.
gonna fly. But get this. She gets off the plane, and this is like 1978, 77 or something. And in the Mormon church, it's probably better today, but uh, getting a divorce is like getting murdering somebody. So she
Right.
gets off the plane, and my grandfather wouldn't talk to her, refused to talk to her, refused, even though she was divorcing a man who was, caught dealing steroids and just a total, mess. So my dad swoops in, and he, he wouldn't, she wouldn't put out to him until they were married. So 4 months later, they got married.
Oh gosh.
And it's classic Al-Anon. She was convinced that, like, she saw that he drank, she saw that he had this whole other lifestyle, but she was just like, she was convinced that like she could change him. I
Right.
can change the man. I can, ignoring all the red flags. And I shouldn't say that too much because I wouldn't have been created. So they came together, and there was
Right.
love, I'm sure. So, but anyway, so I was born into that. I was born into my mother, just the way she was raised beyond the anecdote I just gave, just a very depressed woman. So I was born into this. My father, he's trying to support 7 kids. Of course, he's working his ass off. And of course, he comes home and drinks. And of course, my mom tries to control it and fight. And so it was just the chaos of that, my 3 older brothers and younger siblings. And just, I just grew up in a lot of noise,
Mm.
a lot of her screaming. I was like, I didn't know it yet. I wasn't 13, so the hormones weren't kicking in. So I didn't realize that, I was a little different than my 3 older brothers, my very straight 3 older brothers. And so it made me more emotionally available. So I became like my mother's like partner in a way. I like
Right.
surrendered myself to my mother, and I supported her. It was like her and I versus my dad. But as a result of that, it meant that I had to be the best little Mormon boy in the world. So despite despite going to church every Sunday, and the church, most people hear this about the Mormons. We have the word of wisdom, which is like don't drink, obviously, don't smoke, don't
Right.
curse, don't watch rated R movies. And then we'd come home, and my dad would be smoking and drinking, and he'd be like, "Get the fuck out of the way, my rated R movie." That's my dad's very terrible Boston accent. Anyway, so it was the mixed messaging of that, and as a child, it's like, who am I pleasing? Am I trying to please my dad or my mom? And for me, it was my mom, and trying to be the best little Mormon boy and get validation that way. And um, that's what I existed in. And so I thrived on being the best little boy in the world. I thrived on being the most responsible. I thrived on validation from adults around me. All my
Right.
teachers loved me,
Right.
except for when I had a trauma response of oversharing and over talking, so nobody could control that. That's the one thing. But when I was one of the, it's interesting. um, as a writer, especially like screenwriting and stuff, it helps the audience out that, like, if an origin story has like one event, one experience that sort of wraps up the wound in the main character.
Right.
But in reality, the wounding happens over and over and over. But if I had to encapsulate one big wounding, was when I was about 3 or 4, we were moving from one house to another, literally a mile away. And in the throes of moving, and my mom harping on my dad to get sober, my dad screaming at her, and then my brothers shooting spitballs at each other, I ran inside to the old house to go to the bathroom, and I came out, and they were gone. And I was like, okay, I'm 3, 4. I'm barely processing this. And so what ended up happening was they never came and got me. I walked the entire mile home, turned around the corner, and realized nobody even noticed I was gone. So right at 3, I get this message that, oh my goodness, I don't exist and nobody loves me. I have to work very hard to get their love and validation. Hence, I surrendered myself to my mother at that point.
Right.
It
Because
was
that's
life or
very
death.
traumatic, right? If you think about that. In a 3 year
Huge,
old's brain,
huge.
going to the house and seeing no one there. And like, you know
Well,
what I mean?
seeing nobody coming out, seeing nobody there, but then coming to the new house, not only not seeing, them coming to the rescue, but witnessing my mother, my father, and my brothers, my siblings, nobody even noticing I'm there, like I exist. So I just became completely invisible at that point.
That's
you
when
know?
that cemented that trauma for you, right? When you're not
Ooh.
getting any validation, like, oh, you're here, you're okay, right? You're like,
I was done for after that. I was the
oh
whole
man,
year after, if my mom went anywhere, I would scream and cry. I would scream and cry and claw and like beg to go with her. It took me a whole year just to cool down from that. But I internalized the messaging, which again, I don't matter. I'm invisible.
right,
The list goes on. And what happens and why I brought up the point about screenwriting is the my brain then, that's the filter. That's the filter it looked at the world. So anything that happened was filtered through that as further
right,
evidence why I don't matter. So
correct,
I had to work harder to prove that wrong, which incidentally cements that belief in there even deeper.
right.
And so I prayed to God like a motherfucker. I was like, Mormon God, save me, save me, save me. And then that Mormon God chose not to save me and instead cursed me with the disease of gayness. So when I was 13 and realizing I was slightly different, I was like, oh my fucking God, what did I do to God that was so bad? I mean, so horrendously bad that he can't even tell me what it is, that he would give me the worst thing possible. He would give me this struggle of gayness, this thing that is disgusting, according to my mother, that is weak, according to my father. Oh my God, my life is over. What did I do? God, it is not the best experience for a 13-year-old wanting to die because he exists in a world that is run by a god that thinks you are less than animals, that thinks you're less than, I don't know, fill in the blank, just like an utter, absolute, terrible person that he's punishing me. So I was given this punishment of gayness. Um, and so
I'm sitting here thinking, Sean, like I could understand that thinking. You know what I mean? When you're young like that, especially like you said, you have a Mormon mother that's all about God and this is what the Bible says and this is what the Book of Mormon says and then you got like you said a strong Irish Catholic dad, which we know the Catholic Church is same way and they got their beliefs. I mean, that had to be tough, right? Because you're already struggling with this identity of no one cares and no one sees me.
this
I
is
love
further proof of that.
right? And
Yeah.
understand, audience, right? Sean is saying that he got this disease of gayness that,
Oh yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And I'm sitting here looking at him going, oh, you know what I mean? Like I'm understanding where he's coming from though. But how did you, I'm sure you're getting to that, but like at 13 years old, because that's a very impressionable age, right? Like how, how did you navigate that? Like, and I know you're getting to it, but like, I just got to understand because that's got to be tough as a 13-year-old
Well,
kid.
oh my God. Well, I mean, okay, okay. At first, it was a lot of fear, which manifested, physically. I would get migraines, literally one a week, every other couple days. Like the school nurse and the doctor at the hospital knew me by that point, or I get ulcers. But they chalked it up for growing pains. I'm 6'4", so I was very tall in middle school. So it was manifesting in that way. But the fear was also manifesting as like classic. I was the one using slurs. I was faggot this, faggot that. It was very classic, trying to throw off the scent, especially toward other guys. I mean, this is middle school in the early '90s. Towards other
Right.
guys that were suspected to be more feminine and that kind of stuff. So that was what happened at first. That was my first way of handling it, but that was very ineffective for obvious reasons.
Right.
The thing that came in, so there's um the thing that came in, okay, I'll say this and then I'll say this. The first thing that came in was my eldest brother traditionally got that brother drunk for the first time. That brother got that brother drunk for the first time. And this brother got me drunk for the first time. And Lord, did I find some relief in that alcohol. Like that
Right.
Milwaukee's Best. I was like, what is this? Wow, I want this. Because I didn't, of course I did. I didn't feel my torment. I didn't feel my angst. I felt relief. And that's okay. And it was like, fuck yes.
Yeah. Like,
You get, I mean, you get it. And so it's like when I went
absolutely.
in the first night I got drunk with my brother and his friends. I mean, it was like 2 beers. Um, I remember we went home and my mom was still up and I had a whole like half an hour conversation with her and she didn't even know I was drunk. So not only did I find this thing that makes me feel good, I can also get away with it and I know how to hide it. But my mother was very naive and gullible, so I was, the playing field wasn't very far, but so I
Right.
was like, okay, well, this is, and then on top of that, those three older brothers were jocks. They were sports, stars, and so I was being handed this legacy of playing sports and being popular, and so the validation from my peers kind of also lifted me up and told me I was playing the part right, but I still wanted to die. So this is what happened. I in eighth grade, there was a friend who was, a little lighter on the foot, and through a series of messages and sleepovers at friends and stuff like that, I discovered that he was like me as well. And so the connection that started with him, just outpoured so much emotion, because now this person became my entire world. And the way that I felt towards him saved my life, saved my life, saved my life, because it created this new thought, which was, if this feels so right, and it did because it was love,
Right.
then this over here, something's wrong with it, meaning that God and the Mormons and the way that I believe.
Right.
But that turned him into my God, and that's just not sustainable. So
Right.
all of high school, by the time I graduated from high school, he and I were fighting because it was profound relationship, profound angst and existential crises that a relationship couldn't handle, like totally enmeshed, totally codependent. Romeo and Romeo, nobody knew about it, all in secret, the whole thing. And I was already also blacking out and experimenting. Definitely, weed was all through all of this. But
Right.
by the way, side note, I was talking to somebody, a 25-year-old. I'm 43 now. I was talking to a 5-year-old and a 25-year-old. And I was just talking about, like, back in my day, we used to have like skunk weed, and we used to like the best kind of weed that we got, like kind bud is what we called it. Like the best kind we got is like barely a quarter of the strength of the stuff that is legal at the stores now, like 99% THC. My mind is blown where drugs and alcohol and everything has led to. But back
Oh,
then it was like,
I'm with you. I'm almost 57. So when I hear,
woo,
you know what I mean? Like it was like you said, we had skunk bud, we had from Humboldt, we had that,
yeah.
or we had Thai bud, right? Like really good
We called
Thai
it like
bud.
blue. We called it blueberry something or whatever. I don't know, but it was just that kind. But yeah, so
Uh,
exactly, like the potency is just crazy, and I guess I'm
I'm
saying that because
afraid. As hard
I
a
know,
drug
I
that I
know,
did, I would be afraid to smoke weed again. Like, you know
I
what I mean?
completely
As much
agree.
as I loved it back in the day, right? Like
Yeah, yeah,
I'm with you because I hear about what's going on, and we hear that they lace everything with fentanyl nowadays. Because I've heard like the cartels spray their crops with fentanyl laced water, right? To help.
crazy,
And so I
crazy. It's so actually there's some of that. I mean, not fentanyl, but there's some of that. There's some of those elements. I'll try to get to that faster. So what? Um, so my world, this person and I had a devastating breakup when I was 19, trying to go to college, starting to tell people about my sexuality, really sad. The relationship with my mother was like just fights and just, I'm not loved by her, fuck my dad, fuck God, fuck everybody.
right,
But when that relationship with that guy, my world shattered. And then a cry for help came in me cutting my wrists, which my mother found me. It was one of those, like, if I go, I go, but it was bad. It was bad. And this was my outing. So my outing was a suicide attempt. My mother, God bless her, in her naivety, when I told her, the very first thing she said to me was, "Do you have AIDS?" I'm like, come on, mom. It just put her so far from where I needed her to be that's the first thing she says to me. I mean, and I understand the ignorance at that point. She hasn't been exposed to it. But if that's the
right,
first thing you're going to say, it's like followed by a very, like, now she's sobbing and she's like lamenting about the fact that she's not going to have grandkids, which, as we know today, is not true. But in the 90s, I'm sure.
right,
And I'm like, okay, this is all about you. Anyway, that turned me because what happened after that was now I had to find a way to live, and it I didn't know this at the time, but low key retrospect, like it was definitely like, okay, God, okay, mom, you don't love me. I'm going to show you the damage you do to me. I'm going to put myself through so much shit right now. I'm going to show you how much you damage me. And this rebel resentment just like, and it was powerful. It was powerful. Also, I discovered acting. I should have said that earlier. I discovered acting, the arts, creativity in middle school, and that was another life-giving life force that I thrived on and did all through high school. While I played sports, I had to go play the sports. I was this, football captain. I could do all that. But so when I went to theater school, I just was having the time of my life. But I also started dating a drug dealer. And this is when this is when things really start, taking off because everything I've said so far, you can imagine the turmoil that I'm in. I'm still somewhat in the closet, even though I told my mom, I don't know what's going on. It's the 90s. I hate myself. I hate the world that I'm in.
Right.
Ooh, this acting thing. This is fun. Okay, I like that. But then I hate everything else. So I date the dealer, and he's a crystal meth dealer. And the same reaction from him, the same reaction the first time I did it, for when I had the first sip of alcohol, which was like, oh, this makes me feel good. Why can't I do this all the time? I mean, such a simple statement.
You know what? I totally can relate. I remember my first drink. Oh, that warm and fuzzy feels so good. I kind of
Yes,
like this,
yes,
right? And then
yes.
when I first started doing meth, it was like, especially when I started using intravenously, right? When I did that first shot of meth, it was like, where have you been all my life? I don't have to feel nothing, right?
Good Lord.
It's
Oh,
all it's
oh,
all going to be good, right? I'm telling myself it's all good. It's up from here, everybody. But like little did I
oh.
know that the end was coming. You know what I mean?
It's so funny to hear you share that because you're gonna get a kick out of my story because I'm gonna share everything that happened, but I held strong to the belief that if I didn't shoot up, then I wasn't an addict.
Yeah, let me tell you about all the people I ran into in my drug using days that said, "Oh, you use the needle. We can't party with you because
Correct.
are you kidding me?" Like I would just go, "Okay,
Well, I mean, when I ended, I was smoking an 8 ball of meth a day.
right,
So I mean, it's to each their own, I guess. But and that's I'll try. I'm not going to talk about like as we proceed. I'm not going to talk. I don't want to trigger anybody. I'm not going to talk
right,
about like using drugs. I mean, that's the most
absolutely,
I'll probably say. But so um, okay, so feeling the way that I'm feeling, and then meth comes in, and I don't advise anybody listening to use meth, but in case you're curious, if you feel as powerless as I did in this world, meth had a very stimulating effect. I mean, it's a stimulant, but it made me feel powerful.
yeah,
It kind of made me feel like I filled out, like I was like suddenly there. I
right."
was like, ugh, which made me feel like I mattered and fill in all the things that I thought I was missing. So that was the allure, and it made me feel wanted, and made me feel all the, and then being at the clubs and ripping off my shirt and everybody being like ooh ah, and I'm like this is great.
Right. I
I
have
want this all the
arrived.
time. I have arrived. I want this all the time. So, but needless to say, my addiction, which was kept to the weekends with meth, started creeping into Mondays, and then sometimes Monday, Tuesdays, and then sometimes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, until the dealer boyfriend, his resupplies weren't coming in, and he didn't have it, and then I'd miss a whole week of school because I went to school in Richmond, Virginia, which was 90 miles south from DC.
Okay.
But I'd miss school because I was waiting for him to get resupplied and then being so furious because he couldn't resupply and being so upset. And then talk about that rebel
Right.
energy. I was like, I could do it better than you son of a blah, blah, blah. And then he's freaking out on me. And then out of resentment, I'm like, I'll go prove you wrong. And so I started trying to take his business. This is stupid. This is all stupid. I'm invincible. I'm 22. I'm 21. I'm young. I think I'm invincible. I think none of the consequences will ever happen to me. This
Right.
is perfect. I can miss a semester of school. I'm an actor. I'm going to go do research. All the bullshit. All the bullshit I told myself why this was okay. Again, I can stop when I want to. I'm young. I'm young. I'm young. I just thinking I'm invincible and I can get out of this. That's my thinking,
Right.
not even paying attention to the fact that, like, again, slowly, I am a few days away from now being a daily user.
User. Yep.
It just became, and as I was proving him wrong, yes, I was like, I was a mini kingpin in Richmond, Virginia, because nobody else had meth, and I was like, it was stupid. It was stupid. But the end of that semester, driving my car underneath a Mack truck because I fell asleep at the wheel could have been a wake-up call. Instead, it provoked me forward to not go back to school because that was getting in the way. And I achieved what I wanted. I stole all of his clients. It was one big weekend where I stole all of his clients. I made all this money and I made a deal with myself. I'll make a couple $1,000s and I'll get out and I'll go to community college and everything's gonna be great. And I thought I did that weekend. But again, not sleeping. I fell asleep at the wheel. I was in an alleyway, so the car was on, but I fell asleep at the wheel. And the lore at that time was my very bitter ex-drug dealer boyfriend knew where I was and called the cops on me. That has since been debunked in sobriety and talking to him.
Right.
But I wake up to the cops. I wake up to the cops tapping on my window. Because of that accident under the 18-wheeler and me evading that scene, I had what do you call it? Like a no-show at court. My license was
Oh,
suspended. And I had no idea.
failure to
idea.
appear. I had
All
many
that
of those
good
back
stuff.
in the day,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. All that good stuff. So I'm like, I don't even know. I'm handing it's, I just remember the the DC officer just like, let me see your license. And I'm in there like smoking a cigarette and I crack my window like that much and I feed it through and then it drops to the ground. Anyway, I'm arrested. He can search me because my license is suspended. They find I have a bag full of paraphernalia, thousands and thousands of dollars, all kinds of ecstasy. I'm doing GHB, which is
A date rape drug, they call it.
in the straight scene. In the gay scene is definitely like a chemsex kind of like
Okay.
dancing thing. For me at that point, meth was starting to become this baseline, like that to just operate and then to actually feel high or to feel happy, GHB, which is a depressant just like alcohol. So it makes you feel like that kind of happy, bubbly thing. And then if I went dancing or whatnot, I would just pile in a bunch of ecstasy pills on top of everything. And that was
Wow.
kind of how I operated. But now I'm F because I'm, possession with intent to distribute. And I'm banned from DC. I've no,
Oh,
the judge is like, you have no business being here. You're banned. Um, and my court-appointed lawyer, this wonderful, wonderful man named Dennis Braddock, he's advising me. He's like, maybe we can get it down if, with your plea to quite a couple of years. But then this mandatory debrief with investigators, federal investigators comes in and it's mandatory. I have to go to this. Suddenly I'm in this debrief interrogation and now they're threatening 10 plus years. I'm paraphrasing all of this. This is actually in the book, but I'm paraphrasing this. But um, they, in so many words, said, look, you could be facing 10 plus years. It's possible because we're on federal grounds.
right.
Unless you get us information that would be viable enough to cancel that out, meaning they wanted me to inform. And in so many words, because I was denying everything up to that point, in so many words, I insinuated that, people are going to know I was arrested. They're going to be paranoid to deal with me. So
Right.
I can't do that. And then they, in so many words, were saying, no, keep doing what you're doing. And then I'm like, in so many coded words, saying, like, you don't understand. I can't. They're not going to deal with me. And they, in so many coded words, said, you'll figure it out. You need to be bigger than you were, in so many words, meaning like
Right.
I walked away with that realizing I had to continue to deal drugs as
Well,
as
I was
as
going to say,
contrib
this is your biggest acting part that you have to deal, right? If you think about it, one of them, you have to
well,
act like nothing happened and your business as usual, right?
absolutely. And let me tell you something about that. I'm glad you said that because being in the closet in my teen years, a profound sense of loneliness. Nobody knows my real self. I don't know my real self. I'm rejecting my real self. this one person comes along. Oh my God, that's why he was so loaded. So
Right.
like everything was funneled towards that. He sees me. Oh my God, it was like a drug. But still profound sense of loneliness, not being seen by anybody, by anything anywhere. Going from that and then being
Excuse me.
a drug addict outcast, just being a drug addict alone is fucking lonely, and you are outcast from society. Just
Yeah.
one layer right there. Just you're disgusting. You're an addict. Add criminal to that, you're deadbeat. You're
Yeah.
dead for it. So
Right.
if I'm already an outcast of the if I'm already an outcast of society, now having to be an informant, I'm an outcast from the outcast because I can't even be honest with them about my true self. Now nobody knows anything about my true or deeper self. And
Right.
that to me was such a fucked up. I don't even have the words, and I can even feel myself choking up about it. Just that sense of profound loneliness.
Yeah.
And and yes, I had to act the part. Um, and I acted the part. I I realized I needed to find a new source of meth, and it had to be outside the city, and I was going to bring it back to the city. And then, the city was going to be dry at some point. The city being DC, I think, yeah, I said that multiple times. And everybody's going to start dealing with me, and then I can get connections to their suppliers in
Yeah.
DC, and that's what I thought the investigators would want. So I had the bright idea to start traveling to Atlanta, Fort Lauderdale, New Orleans, and finding connections there, and I did. And realizing this is 2002, three. So post 9/11, I'm a dumbass looking white college frat boy. And I get in line with I get in line. I had to learn the first couple times I started trafficking drugs through airports. I was an idiot. I would buy the ticket the day of, one way, which automatically flagged me in the search line. And then I'd get in line with, I shit you not, me and 30 other men who were all Middle Eastern. Because it was all the racial profiling at that point, post 9/11. They were worried
Right.
about, that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
So they usually flagged me through twice. Twice I was searched and they found a, this is insane, man. They found two baggies that I forgot to clean out. And I just played up the college frat boy, and the two guys, two white guys, an older white guy and a gay guy, just, threw the baggie away and were like, hurry up, get out of here, which
Oh
is
man.
crazy, crazy. Um, but I found a connection, a guy that was in Atlanta, and he was one supplier away from the cartels. And it was cheaper in Atlanta than it was in DC because closer to the border, so I could get it for
Right.
cheaper and bring it up there, make some money, and that kind of stuff. So I was riding pretty high. I was riding pretty high with my business, and I was dealing with the guilt of being like, I'm not a rat. I don't rat. So I was making up information, sending that to them. And I'm looking at the time. I want to give myself like 8 more minutes with this and then get into
You
some recovery stuff.
take as much time as you want.
Well, I'm just like, this is thrilling. This is all in the book, and this is, but like, the resilience that leads to where I'm at now is also really inspiring. But, if you're with us this long, I'll keep going
Right.
for the
I'm
benefit,
sure there
not
I'm sure there's people in the audience going like, yeah, Sean, let us know what happened. We want to know how you pulled this off, right?
Oh Lord. So I, and now I'm really acting the part of, the title of my book is The Good Little Drug Lord. So now I'm really acting the part. Now I'm really like, I lived in hotels and, hotel suites and having business, people come through and go. And I was the guy, I was thriving. I was the guy. I was the guy in DC. And at the clubs, all the clubs knew who the owners knew, the red carpet was, yeah, it was like walking, like a celebrity walking in. I was finally the celebrity, finally valid seen for what I really am. So I was like on a high, and of course being harassed by the agents constantly. You have your case coming up, da 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 da, and that's always impending, like freaking out, like what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? And I thought about my connection in Atlanta, and I was like, I really liked the guy, and I was like, No, because he was like a good guy like me. Like he just mixed up in this in a while. And then I was like, well, what if I took notes about the supplier who's supposedly with the cartel? And then I was almost gonna do that. And then I thought about it and I was like, that's crazy. They're gonna chop off my head or my
Right.
family's head. So that's not happening.
Right.
At that time, and the reason I even wrote this book was because one night I was in Atlanta with this friend, this supplier, and I would meet his friends from time to time. And I met this one fellow for the first time that night, and I was involved in an experience with this young man where I gave him drugs. He disappeared at some point. We think to go drink alcohol because he was not doing too well in his life. Came back to us completely. When you do too much GHB, it was, I don't know what's referred to today, but back then it was called like falling out, meaning like you cross that line. It basically looked like somebody who was incredibly inebriated and just not
Right.
making sense and they just needed to pass out. So that was what was happening to this guy. But as the night progressed and we put him on his side in the car, I would periodically check on him and he just progressively got worse. My drug addled paranoid drug dealer mind was not accepting the fact that I was literally witnessing somebody slowly dying.
Right.
When the realization that he potentially needed help finally broke through, and I finally went out, the final time of seeing him, it was too late. His face was blue, hands were blue, snot was on his nose. Freaking out, I grabbed the friend. We drive down the one-way street to the hospital. I suddenly start doing CPR because I was a lifeguard. Didn't matter. And so it was a very sad but classic experience of dropping the body off at the ER and getting away. That fucked me up because I was not like the rest of these criminals. I was not like anybody here. I was a good, even though I hated myself and hated my life, I still thought I was like a good person, or I tried to
Right.
be validated as a good person. This was like a different line. This was like a different, observing myself not acting in enough time. It just broke me because again, all ideas of who I thought I was just evaporated. And then I was like, well, I guess I am a fucking criminal. I guess I am a fucking piece of shit.
Right.
And I deserve everything that's happening right now.
So that
So
sounds like that was your rock bottom. Like,
no.
no, okay. All right. Well, see, I've said this before, right? Everybody's bottom's different, right? That could have been, right, Sean? And
Absolutely. Absolutely could have been,
but
should have
we're
been.
right. One recovering drug addict to the other. We can always find a different bottom, right?
Which is it's sad, but I have a lot of respect for it, especially parents who or siblings of a suffering addict who still like they have like a litany of list of all the things that this addict did, and they keep thinking it's their bottom. And in my mind, I'm like, you have no idea. You have no idea the depths we can go. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I cannot offer you words of support other than saying like turn that sibling, turn that child over to whatever higher thing you believe in, because that is the only way through this. I promise you.
Yep.
Because holding on to like trying to change this person is not. I needed to fully go through what I went through, and I am one lucky son of a bitch,
Right.
particular to my story, but I wouldn't be where I am without the
Right.
full picture.
So
The
I
full
apologize for interrupting. So continue then, because I just, I no, I mean, I mean this like in a sincere way, right? Because I want people to understand, like, if there's someone struggling with addiction, right? Like they have to hear that, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah. Oh no,
even the threat of prison didn't scare me when I thought
correct.
that was my bottom, right? Like, because I
Yes,
actually thought, like, okay, I'm sitting in court going prison for 3 years or do recovery, which I had no idea what recovery looked like, right? And being sober,
exactly,
right? So
exactly.
I'm like three hots in a cot I can do, but life, I have no idea. I've been blowing it for all these years now. Like, just send me to prison, right? I might see some friends that I know in there anyway, and they'll be
So,
cool.
so I get that actually, believe it or not, that's where I got to. I got to a place of like, send me to prison. And I got there because it was devastating watching this person die. The real regret, and in 12 steps, the real amends, like the reason I even wrote this book was 2 weeks later, after I swear off traveling, now I need to come up with some new plan of getting more drugs to sell to give these guys information. All that's happening. And all I wanted to do is just get higher and higher and forget about this young man. I
Right.
pick up my phone and this woman in this like deep southern drawl, she's like, please don't hang up. I'm like, whoa. And she's like telling me that my number was the last number on her son's phone bill, which was the young man. He called me for some reason that night, whatever. And she's just begging me not to hang up. And my mind is spinning. Is this a cop? Is this a setup? Do they know about what happened? Are they trying to entrap me? Spinning. And she is weeping and she is just begging and she just wants to know why her son is dead. She wants to know what happened. I'm sure the toxicology or the hospital was like, he had alcohol and GHB in his system. That's all she had.
Right.
She just wanted to know what happened. Begging. I hung up on her, man. I hung up on her. And this was now, what is that, 21 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Still my biggest regret. I tried to find her a year later after I got sober. I tried to find her recently while I was writing the book. Can't. So my book is like a message in a bottle to her and to other grieving mothers. Like this is what happened to your son, and why I'm so vocal about sharing this story. It'd be great to find her. I mean, she may have found a way to move on. God bless her.
Right.
Or she may have passed away herself. I don't know, but this is my way of making amends to that.
Absolutely.
So that accelerated the addiction. I was already smoking meth by this point. I told you guys I'm using all day, every day, that kind of stuff. That accelerated it, and I needed a source. I needed something, and so I had this one guy who would run drugs for me, but he was also a hairstylist, so he would go do house calls and cut your hair and deal my drugs. And so one of his clients, her boyfriend was trying to get in the business. The only hangup is that he was supposedly part of the Russian mafia. So when my friend first presented this to me, I was like, that's fucking crazy. That's insane. Get the fuck out of here. But now desperate, I was like, call him. So I met this guy, closer to my age. So I'm 22 at this point, and
Right.
he's probably 23, 24, 25. Um, Looked the part, was probably the part, said he was the part, pulled out a gun to show he was the part. How involved he was in the full part, who knows? But
Right.
he fulfilled it, and I wasn't, and I believed it. And um, I was so high, so terrified that I absolutely sexualized the entire experience because this guy was so hot, and that's all I was thinking about. He's pulling out pounds of meth, threatening my life because I need him to front me drugs and to go sell them and bring back the money. All I'm thinking about is like, this is the hottest guy I've ever seen. Like, it was stupid. It was stupid. Anyway, I mean, and later he's like, as I started to use more drugs than I sold, and I started to owe him money. So then he was really
Oh.
putting the gun in my face, really pinning me against the wall. And even like him this close, I was still like, man, is he gonna kiss me? It's just,
But
I'm just,
but
that's
that's
the
the
limit.
power of the brain, though, to protect yourself.
Disassociate. Yeah, just
Exactly, right?
totally
You're
disassociate.
scared. Let's say you're scared shitless, but this is how I'm going to get through this. This guy's hot. Oh yeah, come
Yeah, I
on.
mean, what are you gonna do? It's incredibly terrifying. I have two federal agents who are harassing me now. They found me in the middle of the night and like pinned me to their car, screaming at me to get them information. I have this mafia-tied person who is putting a gun in my face, threatening my life if I don't pay him back.
Right.
And then on the other side, I have this like emotional, spiritual bottoming out of like, who the F am I? I'm this horrible, disgusting person. So and on top of all of that, I still wanted everybody to think I was a good person. So there was no way I was gonna rat. So my only solution then was to show up to my sentencing and accept it because I was like, I can't rat.
Yeah.
I did not know if I were to rat on the mafia guy, what that would lead to again with my family and myself. And so that felt like a threat. And the dealers, and then I say dealers, and then the people that supplied them, and then, they were friends, but it was more than that. It was more like I really observed addicts while I was out there, meaning like I recognized that everybody was there because of some really bad wounding. We all had stories. We all
Mm.
there was empathetic, even though I was could have been a monstrous asshole as this big drug dealer
Right.
kingpin bullshit. I still saw humanity in these folks, and I was like, and then I was like, I don't think I can stop. And so I showed up to my sentencing again with this beautiful human, Dennis Braddock, who's court appointed, has done hundreds, if not thousands, of cases at this point. And the judge is just ready to, you know,
Throw,
send
throw
me
you
off.
in jail.
I mean, just done. This very young, like federal prosecutor stands up, and as the judge is getting ready to do his thing, he's like, "Your Honor, the federal government's asking for this case to be dismissed." And I'm like taken aback. Did I hear that correct? And my lawyer is just like, "Don't say anything." And the judge is even like, "What? Can you repeat that?" And he asked for the case to be dismissed again. And then the judge hit the gavel, case dismissed. And Dennis Braddock was like, "Don't say anything." Grabs me, pulls me to a side room. And he's like, "What did you do?" I'm like, I don't know. Tweakers say they know people, but no, that I didn't do anything. I don't know. And I didn't rat on anybody. I didn't. I gave them
Right.
false information. And he was like, again, I've done hundreds, if not thousands of cases. I've just never seen that before. You better, you are one lucky son of a bitch. You better
Yeah.
take this as a second thing and get out of here. And you would think that's my bottom.
Well, we know that the floor can drop even further, right?
So no, I mean, even going outside, and I still remember the phone call to my mother and hearing her sob, just weeping for me, also got through to me, but again, wasn't my bottom. I still had the mafia guy harassing me. So I used that as an excuse to continue going because I was worried that he would threaten my friends or that kind of stuff. So I was like, I'll make a few more bucks and then go out. But really, I just didn't know how to stop using. I didn't know what to do. I
Right.
lasted 6 more weeks. We talked about this a little before. 2 weeks before my 23rd birthday, my running mate, this girl I was out there with the whole time, the one I trusted the most, she was very scared to tell me. 2 weeks again before my 23rd birthday, we're living in an abandoned apartment because it would flood out. So I was living on an air mattress. So the front half was just this moldy, disgusting mess. The back half was like a little drier, but again on an air mattress. Um, and she was like, I really don't want you to get mad at me, but I want to tell you something. And I'm like, of course, go right ahead. And she's like, I want to go to rehab. And I look at her and I'm like, you can do that? Because I thought rehab was for like the heroin addicts and train spotting. Like I wasn't shooting up,
Right.
so I wasn't an addict. I had no idea, let alone, those heroin addicts are like in a haunted house in the hill, like that was
Right.
abandoned. I'm in an abandoned house. I'm smoking,
Yeah.
every day, daily. I forgot what it's like to draw a sober breath over well over a year. So it's like it was a shock. It was like you can do that, and it was an opening. It was a window. It was a window of an opening, and I was like, you know what? In 2 weeks is my 23rd birthday. We'll have a going away party and my birthday, and we'll stop then. And then when that day came, um, of course I didn't want it to end, but when that morning came, that's when all disillusionments shattered. That's when everything stopped because I said I was going to stop that day. I had never said that before. And telling myself, like, okay, now is when we stop. Physically, my body was still picking up the pipe and torching it and smoking.
Right.
It was this weird, more than weird. It was a terrifying disconnect between what was happening with my body and my mind. And that shattered the illusion. I absolutely realized I had no control. And that was the moment where suddenly it was like I woke up from a coma and I looked around. I mean, I really jerked too. I really jerked, like I was punched in the gut, and I looked around and I didn't recognize what was happening around me or what I did. And I was like, "What the fuck?" Realizing it
Right.
was all coming together, and and then I couldn't connect thoughts in my head, and obviously I had all those consequences up to that point, but that was the moment I thought I truly went insane. Like I thought I was now one of those people screaming at invisible people on the
Right.
street corners and homeless. I really thought I went crazy. I really truly did. And that broke me. I just was sobbing. I didn't know what to do. And I could sense this tiny, tiny sliver of a window opening of like of a way out of everything
Right.
that I've been through. And I crawled down the stairs because there was a little lofty area. Found that girl. She took one look at me and just sobbed with me. We held each other, and we both were in this window, and we're like, "What do we do?" And I don't know, grab the we grabbed the yellow pages and we open it up, and there's like 500 rehabs in DC, or that's what it seemed like. And we're like, I don't know, call somebody. And I remember calling. I don't remember what I called, but she had the voice of an angel, and she was just so like, you did the right thing, and we need help now. She's like, well, we'll have a bed open till tonight. Can you make it till then? And we were like, yeah, we got each other. And so, and then we hang up the phone. We're like, oh my God, we're doing this. And then within minutes, the window started closing. The cravings, I really like,
Mhm.
this is when we do more drugs. This is when we do more, this is when I get
Right.
higher.
Right.
So she called her parents. This is DC again. So her parents are in Boston. And I was like, well, what's that going to do? Why are you going to call your parents? They were in the car a half an hour later to do the 8 hour drive down to get her. I still refuse to call my parents because fuck them. But the window was closing. So I called the ex drug dealer boyfriend. I was like, you got to come here. You got to take all my drugs. I'm done. I need to get these out of here. And so he comes, he takes it. He's all like up in a huff. Other people start hearing about it. There's a crowd outside our place. Oh my God, Sean's done. This is like crazy. And I'm like, take it. And just, I can't. But then I was down on my knees because I could really like, this is now when I use. And so I picked up the phone instead, and I was inspired by what she did. And 8:30 Sunday morning, my mom's trying to get the kids out to church. Um, I I just she picks up, I, and all I said was mom, just in that my voice cracked, broken, sad. Everything was communicated in that one word. And there was like a beat, and she goes, where are you? Like the mama bear came out. So I gave her the address, and she's like, we're on our way. They're like 20 minutes away. And in that 20 minutes, um, the dealer, the Russian guy, was harassing for his money. Suddenly, being honest with everything that's happening around me, I was inspired to tell him, I'm getting sober, and I'm going to get a job, and can I pay you back in a payment plan? The absurdity of paying
Hey, you
drug
gotta,
money back.
you gotta, get yourself that reprieve for a moment so he doesn't come over and spoil your,
Right.
you know
So
what I mean? I get it.
I I mean, I was like, I didn't know what else to say. I wasn't even gonna tell him that I was gonna go get sober. I didn't know what else to do. So this is what I said to him. And it was the right thing to say because there was this pause. And then he goes, and I shit you not, this sounds like I'm making it up. My editor in my book made me change this because it sounded too on the nose, but I slightly changed it in the book. But in truth, I shit you not, this guy goes, after I said, I'm gonna go get sober, I'm going to rehab, can I pay back on a payment plan? This guy goes, you can do that?
I
And,
love
and
it.
I know. And then I was like, yeah, yeah, man, you can totally do that. And then there's another sort of pause, and it's almost like I can feel him wistfully thinking, and he goes, you know, I've always wanted to sell real estate in Baltimore. And then I'm like, yeah, man, you can do that. Yeah, you can do that. And then another pause, and then he goes, you know what? Forget about the money, man. Best of luck with everything. And then that's it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then just as that happened, my parents were showing up, and off we go. And that was that was it. That was September 23rd, 2004. 26. God damn, it's my birthday. September 26th, 2004. I slept for 2 weeks, then I went into a rehab, then I did an outpatient program. I had one relapse because I liked to do inhalants on top of all the other drugs sometimes, like dust off,
Right.
so fucking bad for you, so bad. And when I went into the halfway house in DC from the outpatient program, I walk in the door and on top of the VCR is a can of dust off. And I'm like, in my brain, I'm like, I'm in a halfway house. That must mean that that's okay to use.
Right.
So I use it that night and I tell my one of the counselors and he immediately like freaks out. He's like, you gotta start your day count over. You're kicked out of the halfway house. And I'm like, dude, what? You're not even high. It's like 60 seconds. What are you talking about? Right?
Right.
Like, anyway, so then I was resentful and I was like, fuck you. If I'm going to go out, I'm really going to go out. So I went out that night, but I couldn't get high. I just sat there after consuming a amount
Right.
of drugs. I was like, I couldn't get high. And then I just stood up without saying goodbye, got in the car, drove away. And that was the moment I was like, I don't belong there. This is over. And that was it.
Yeah. No, not fun anymore, right? So
Not fun anymore.
what is your sober date, if I may ask then?
409.
409.
Yeah, which is do they still have 409 the cleaner? Because that's how I remember it.
Yeah, they do.
And GHB is actually like industrial cleaner. It has chemicals in there that's the same as like industrial cleaner. And that was the last thing I put in my body.
All right. Same with meth, right? It's everything under your sink.
Yeah, yeah. So I know that was a lot to get me to this new journey that I've been on for the last 20 years. And but there's many ways I can go with this, but
Right.
I guess to feel some kind of sense of, resilience, some kind of like what happened. I I I will say this, the counselor there, not the one who was like start your day kind of, I hate that guy. The other guy who I'm still talking to him on Facebook today. Uh, Beautiful human being. He was encouraging me. He's like, listen, you didn't get sober just to sit around. What is it you love to do? What's your purpose? Let's go, man. Let's go.
Yeah.
You didn't get through that to then just feel depressed again. And again, I was starting to do acting classes. He encouraged me to get back into acting classes, and I love that. And he's like, great. You got to get out to LA if that's what you want to do. And I mean, like he really pushed me and I really appreciated that. And so I moved out to LA, and Los Angeles has some of the best recovery, I believe, still
Yeah.
to this day. I mean, it was profoundly effective when I rolled up, moved here, and a week later I'm in a 12-step meeting, and then I'm sitting down, and next to me, this guy introduces himself, and I'm not going to say it because it's anonymous, but lead singer of one of my favorite bands, and he's like, "Hey, man, just shoot the shit with me," and saying that he's proud that I'm sober, dude. I ran on that for years.
Right. I can't say I haven't been to any meetings in LA. When I first got sober, I was 30 days sober. I'm on my first pass, right? And one of the guys that went through the place I did came and got a bunch of us and said, hey, we're going to go to a meeting in LA. So, all right. So we go find this meeting, right? I shit you not, Sean. You walk in and there's a room in the middle of this bigger room, right? And the bigger room is a rave going on. You go into the, like literally a rave that's going on. And in the middle is the AA meeting. And the secretary of the meeting is 15 years sober. He's got big old Liberty Spike, punk rock looking dude. And, you go to the bathroom, you can hear the music thumping and people are in the bathroom. You could tell they're tripping because I'm just like, I couldn't believe, I go, if this is what recovery is all about, I go, I'm all in. I go, I love this show. Because my sponsor said, just sit back and watch the circus go by. Right. And
yeah, totally. This club isn't there anymore, but there was a club on Sunset called Key Club. And one of the main meetings was in the bar. Like literally during the day, we'd go downstairs to the VIP room. I mean, the bar, alcohol is within reach and we're having an AA meeting. Like, that's just like, people, it was cool. It was badass. It was badass to have this meeting and to have it be there and this whole thing. And it was just, I was down for it. I mean, that's what LA was all about, I guess.
Right. They all go big or go home, right? Whether it's recovery or drugs or alcohol. But
yeah.
Right. But I appreciate you being here and sharing that, right? Because now we have like an idea of what your book is about, right? Going from a 13-year-old with a crisis of identity because no one's going to understand, because then you find your, like, at the time, I'm just going to say your soulmate because he relates. He's just like you, right? And then all these things that we go through right, could have, as we know, like back, I mean, how many have you heard of people like going through that and finding that, I'm going to kill myself because no one
Yeah.
understands. And you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
You fought through so much, right? And I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to your book, but I'm going to ask you some of the questions I like to ask, right?
Oh,
Like
please.
the name of my book back there, we're going to start with Fearless. It's same as a podcast. So what does, going through what you've been through, right? And I'm love being on this ride with you today. It's been such an awesome time.
Oh, good.
What does fearless mean to you and how does that show up in your life today?
Okay. That is a great question because my relationship, like I often have said, it's easy to answer this question as an actor because there's some obvious answers to that, which I can go down. Because I've often said it's a given that you can act. It's more about your relationship with like your nervous system, which is reacting to the fear. But as a person in recovery, you know, um, who's read a lot of self-help books, who listens to inspiring podcasts like yours and all these things, and listening to people who are changing and stuff. Fearless to me is actually recognizing that courage and fear are the same thing, meaning I'm not going to get rid of the fear.
Right.
My job is to actually accept the fear and continue to walk through it anyway. The fear will change. Like I've walked, as we've evolved, things that I used to be fearful of aren't, or like going through experiences. Like here's a very easy example. Going into my very first big, like, series regular audition or guest star audition for whatever TV show. Fucking terrifying. Like
I can only
pan
imagine.
panic attack inducing, like, ugh, but inspired by my love for acting and inspired by the challenge of proving this to myself that I can show up in this way. But at that time too, also a little resentment towards all the people that said I couldn't do it, so I was going to prove them wrong. But that's a whole other. Well, that doesn't exist anymore. But anyway, but if I can go through the experience that I am afraid of, that I am feeling fear, accepting the fear as is, being fully into the experience, meaning and fully embracing it, feeling everything, I will come out the other side. That fear will lessen the next time I do that thing, whatever it is.
Right.
It could be intimacy with my partner, intimacy with my mother or siblings, or whatever that thing is that I have built up to be this giant monster, just gets reduced down to absolutely nothing. So I guess, isn't there like a quote like, courage is moving through the fear anyway, like feel the fear and do it anyway, or something like
I
fearless
think,
to me
yeah, I think
is
there's a past president that's saying the only thing to fear is fear itself. Something, you know what I mean?
yeah,
That's,
yeah,
I,
yeah, yeah. Fearless means is somebody who confidently owns their fear.
I love it. That's awesome. Yeah, you can't. Yeah, I hope you're paying attention, everybody. That was like spot on. At least for me, it's like because there's so many things. Like, does fear ever go away? Are we ever going to be really fearless? Right? Doubt it. Not going to
No,
happen. But
no.
like you and many guests I've had, the common theme is face your fear and do it anyway. Because when you go through that process and you get to the other side, one, you're stronger, and two, you realize there was a lesson I needed to learn. Like I like to say, my higher power is going, do it anyway, Max. I got your back, but there's something I need you to learn, and you're going to be stronger for it. Right. And then,
Yeah,
which has led me to being here with you today, Sean, right? Because I remember I said it to my mentor and coach at the time. Just think to get him off my back on a certain, I thought I was deflecting on every time we met. And I've said this so many times, he would always hit me up. How's that podcast going? How's that podcast? And,
yeah,
and the fear would give me excuses to give him. And then finally he just said, look, effing Max, fucking perfect doesn't mean done. So just do it. And I'm like, that was the process I had to go. I can do this, right? And here I am with you today, Sean, and listening to your amazing story, right? Of totally doing that onion analogy, right?
yeah,
Peeling it back, discovering, uncovering, discarding,
Yeah.
and doing it over and over again, right? And that's, I think, our human experience. If we embrace that, we get to be that onion, and just keep finding new things about ourselves and others in the process. Which I think, even though we say we're scared, we become fearless because we keep doing those things that are going to make us grow, like you grow as a human being. And now out here, you're going to share your book with the world soon. And yeah, just being here with me, you know what I mean? Like, I love it because it's,
Well,
go
I
ahead.
do. I'm going to one up that by saying, sorry, guys, but I actually feel like the fear increases the deeper we go into ourselves.
Yeah.
My fear, the more my life has expanded, th- the more the fear has increased because now I can't control anything, and trauma really wants me to control things and stay small because it wants to, control, keep me
Right.
safe. The more I have had to have been dependent upon what I believe is actually happening in this universe around me, or
Right.
whatever higher power I believe in, who is holding my hand through these experiences and lighting my path. And my barometer is what feels in alignment with me. If I feel that, then I can feel confident. I can still feel the fear,
Right.
and fear itself can't kill me. Like the actual feeling of my adrenaline system, that doesn't, I don't, panic attacks feel like they can kill you, but they can't
Right.
necessarily. So
I
anyway,
love it. But I think you're correct. So you're right. Like the fear does get bigger, like depending on like you going to that big audition, right? Like, I don't care who you are. Like, I've heard, like, for me, it was my first speaker meeting. Now, I
oh yeah,
thought
same thing,
I
same
I
thing.
thought I was going to pass out, right?
Oh my God, oh my
Because I
God.
had my mom there, my aunt, and my aunt didn't know any of my story really, right?
Ooh, yeah.
But going back to you, like, so happiness, right? Like, see, I put a Y in there, and I put a Y for a reason. What does happiness mean for you, and how does that show up in your life today?
Wait, you put the Y in there? Why happiness? Is that why?
I
Like,
love, but see, go ahead and answer. I put a Y in there on purpose. I want to see if my guest can figure it out why I did that.
I mean, to me, the why is asking the question, the why happiness. The reminder of that, but or maybe not. Maybe in the answering of this, it will lead to something. But you said, what is happiness to me, or what makes me happy today? Is
Yeah,
that what
what
you
does it
said?
mean to you, and how does how does happiness show up in your life? Knowing I put a Y in there, and you'll figure it out. I think
I would.
you'll figure it out.
You put me in the center of my happiness. You put you, Y-O-U, like you put maybe, that's
Right? That's part of it, right? Because, well, you think about it, where does happiness come from? It doesn't. For me, all right, let's just tell the audience, right? Like, it doesn't come from outside things anymore for me. Yes, except I take that back. My grandkids make me very happy. They bring joy into my life.
Oh, I was just about to say my Boston Terriers. Like that was going to be my number
Our,
one answer.
yeah,
Like,
my wiener dogs are
yeah,
amazing. I love them.
yeah,
They're brats,
yeah,
but I love them, right?
yeah,
But you get what I'm saying. Like, I
yeah.
have to find happiness. So, like, knowing that, how does happiness show up in your life on a daily basis?
Oh, um, in multiple ways, if I choose to recognize that. I number one, I strive to maybe because I am a writer or just somebody in recovery, I've always thrived on journaling. And in my journaling, I really try to focus on gratitude because I really do think gratitude gives me the lens to shape the world around me. Also, I joke and say that my dad implanted a habit of complaining, but gratitude is changing the way, that I see the world versus my
Right.
dad. Anyway, it's a practice, like true practice of building the habitual way of thinking of gratitude. Anyway, so that helps me actually see happiness, or choose to embrace it. And happiness is it's different than joy. It's different than moods. It's happiness is our experiences to me. Happiness is like moments. And so then I'm understanding this as I'm saying it, by the way. So if there are moments that make me happy, it truly is, with my two Bostons cuddling under the blanket with me on this like rainy day that's happening around here, or
Right.
my husband doing something really cute, or um, this new profound relationship I have with my mother, still practicing Mormon mother, but yet we have found a way to love each other. And there's happiness in that shared intimacy that we have now, or really understanding how not great relationships I had with my siblings, but now we do. That feeling paint on the canvas, oh, writing a really good sentence, having a really fun performance, a nice walk outside. Um, Ultimately, it is derived from what I believe in my higher power. And I definitely subscribe to the don't worry, be happy
Yeah.
mode of thinking, which is simple but incredibly hard because the worries are the product of a feverish mind and fear, and having to constantly turn those worries over because it's always tripping about something in the future which I can't control, and
Right.
focusing on the things that make me happy. And wouldn't that be nice if I lived in a world where that was just the prime directive? It's like turn over what's happening over there and focus on what makes you happy. Why the F not?
Right.
And you and I being recovery folks, we know how important service work is. And I actually that feeling is more profound than happiness. That is such a fullness, a satisfying, deeper kind of thing to me. I'm just focusing on things that like can dot peak moments throughout my day that sustain a level of happiness, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. 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 Like you said, one recovering person to another, right? Like, I think you said it though. If there's anything that the audience could take away is gratitude. If you can find, it doesn't matter how big or how little throughout your day, the things that you're grateful for. I mean, you have no choice but to be happy, right? Because I smile when I start going off my
Yeah.
checklist. You know what I mean? Like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah. And sometimes, and I'll talk to you about it after we're done here, but like even through my struggles in sobriety, like I went through some serious, like 9 years ago and 5 years ago, I continued that gratitude journal, right? And making sure that I kept my focus on, okay, I'm going through this tough time for a reason, but there's still things I could be grateful for because I was there for my siblings, I was there for my mom and all that. And you get it, right? So one, thank you for spending this wonderful time with me. I mean, it really brought me joy listening to your story and what you've been through and where you are today. What an honor, right? And I hope the audience is paying attention, right? Because Sean brought so much value that, I mean, there's so many things that we can take away from our time together today. I appreciate it, but you're not quite off the hook just yet because I got to ask you if my
Yeah.
audience would like to get a hold of you, reach out to you, find out again the name of your book before we get off here and how they can get it. How can they get a hold of you, Sean?
Everything I try to aggregate everything through my Instagram, so it's at Sean Hemeon, SeanHemeon. I'm sure you'll put that in some notes or somewhere, or my
Absolutely.
website, seanhemeon.com. There you will find all things art, all things acting. You can watch my recent work on 911, and it will also you'll have the updates for the when the book is actually being released. And the book, again, I think now people will understand the title a little bit more, The Good Little Drug Lord, and why it's titled that way.
I love it.
But if you can subscribe to the newsletter, or you can just, keep checking for updates, or just follow me on Instagram. You'll get all the info there.
Awesome. I appreciate it. But like I said, you're not quite off the hook yet. I get to ask you my favorite question of all
Ooh.
my guests. And it goes like this. What is the one piece of advice you could give my audience to help them grow as human beings and become better people?
um, so much. Okay, here's what I'll do. I if you've been listening this far, then you are invested. And so I'm going to repeat something, and hopefully it just deepens the understanding and the value of the tool that I'm going to say is something you can really take away with. So earlier on, this is real quick. I'll say this is real quick, but earlier on when I was sharing about my childhood, how I picked up the messaging that I'm basically worthless and invisible, I then looked at the world through that filter. And then my brain, very smart brain, started looking for evidence of that to support my personality, which was being built around this. And that's its job. That's what it's supposed to do.
Right.
I was also copying my dad, who, like I said, was just stuck on complaint loops. He complained about everything. So, I'm a complainer now. So I'm stuck on looking for things wrong in the world. It's all part of that self-worth thing. So if that's true, if that's a very simple way of explaining how the brain can actually work, then what happens if I practice changing how I view the world? And that, before, gratitude and gratitude lists were just kind of like, they're
Yeah.
like affirmations, like, okay, I'm going to repeat this and, change my
Right.
brain or that kind of stuff. But if I actually looked at it as like a genuine, like when I say practice, I mean like throwing a football practice. I mean, like I am
Right.
practicing
Hmm.
building new neurons in my brain.
You said it
And
for
if
me.
I continue to do that, and that's why they're always like, if you listen to people talking about like practice gratitude, they're always talking about if you experience it, then you really solidify it. The reason is because it just builds the neurons faster. So some
Right.
days like I feel it, some days I don't. But as a result of that, though, meaning gratitude lists, whatever that is to you, I'm grateful for the way my puppy looks at me, whatever it is.
Right.
Um, it's practicing a new way of thinking, and over time that lens with which how you view the world will start to shift. It will start to shift, and that is what has happened to me. I need to journal and re-up sometimes. I
Yeah.
fall back into that easily, but it is shifted dramatically, and I find the moments of happiness easier and more frequent as a result. So that was more uh that wasn't quite a direct quote, but I just wanted to expand upon what we've already talked about. Since people are committed this far, might as well repeat and
Right.
really land it.
I love it. You heard him, everybody. I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself, but it's a practice. I love it. Well, Sean, thank you so much again for being here. I mean, this has been an amazing time for me, and I know for my audience. And we'll have to bring you on again because I
Yeah,
mean, I
I
would
gotta talk
love to
about
have.
recovery.
We'll talk about recovery, right? And we'll bring you
Yeah,
back after your book is published and talk
yeah,
about your book and get more in depth.
yes,
But
yes.
thank you for being here and spending this wonderful time with me. I am grateful and happy that you did so and took me up on it. But you heard him, everyone. If I like to say, if Sean made you think, if Sean made you, if he taught you something, if he made you smile, if he made you, my famous, go, I like that. Please go to iTunes and leave a 5-star review so more people can find the podcast. And again, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this world. It's Max from the Fearless Happiness Podcast. Until next time.
Are you tired of being weighed down by life's traumas and struggles? Join the Fearless Happiness lifestyle and let us guide you toward a brighter future. Explore our past podcast episodes and get a copy of the Fearless Happiness book to ignite your inner strength. If you or someone you love is battling addiction or facing challenges related to unresolved trauma, know that we are here for you. Visit maxnajst.org, maxnijst.org, and take the first steps toward finding your fearless happiness. Thank you for listening. This has been a production of Fearless Happiness.